I stood in the middle of the banquet hall, sweat clinging to the back of my dress, the scent of roasted chicken, and too much perfume hanging in the air. My mother's 35th wedding anniversary was in full swing. Gold banners, white roses, glittering lights. I had planned every single detail. Not because they asked, but because they expected it. That's what Ava did. Fix things, make things perfect. Everyone laughed and raised glasses around me. My younger siblings, Mason, Charlotte, and Leo, clinked their wine and talked over each other like royalty at a feast. I hovered near the kitchen door, half invisible as usual, watching plates get cleared while kids ran wild under the tables. Then it happened. My father stood up, tapping his glass with a spoon like a cheesy wedding toast. "Big announcement," he boomed. "Next week, the whole family is flying to Santorini. All expenses paid." Cheers exploded. My heart stuttered with hope. I stepped forward and asked, "Wait, what time's the flight?" He didn't even look at me when he said it. "You're not coming, Ava. Someone has to stay and look after the grandkids." Laughter trickled out like poison. Even my mother giggled and waved her hand. "Oh, come on, don't make that face. You're not really family when it comes to trips like this." The room blurred. The applause felt like gunshots in my ears. After everything I'd given up, college, travel, freedom, for them, and now I was a glorified babysitter, something in me cracked. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I smiled, stepped back, and quietly decided I was done. The stars were out by the time I got home, but I didn't notice them. I slammed the door behind me and leaned against it, breathing hard. My heels clicked across the scratched hardwood floor as I paced in circles, the humiliation still burning hot on my skin. "They said I'm not family," I whispered to the empty room. After everything, my apartment was a shoebox, barely big enough to fit the futon and secondhand dresser. On the table sat a stack of birthday cards I'd written for everyone. Mom, Dad, Mason's kids, none for me. I stared at them, my hands trembling. I gave up college to help pay for Dad's surgery. I worked 2 jobs to keep Charlotte from drowning in debt. I canceled every vacation to babysit. And tonight, I was told I didn't belong. I kicked off my heels, ripped off the fancy dress, and stood there in silence, seething. Then something clicked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I moved. I grabbed a duffel bag from under the bed and started packing. Jeans, shirts, my old boots. Nothing pretty, just what I needed. I opened the top drawer and took out the envelope marked emergency. It was barely $600 in tips and saved pennies, but it was mine. I opened my laptop, searched for buses leaving the city before dawn. There was one, 5:15 a.m., headed to Clearwater Bay, a place I visited once years ago, fell in love with, and was told I'd go there someday. Someday was now. I hesitated, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Sophie's name. My niece, 16, the only one who ever listened. She'd begged me to stay, so I didn't call. I wrote a note instead, just 2 words, "I'm done." By 4 a.m., I was outside. The streets were empty, the air cool and sharp. My breath curled like smoke in the darkness. When the bus pulled up, a massive gray beast of freedom, I climbed in without looking back. No more guilt, no more servitude disguised as love. I wasn't theirs anymore. I was mine. The morning light painted the ocean in soft gold as the bus rolled into Clearwater Bay. It had been hours of silence and sleep deprivation. But the moment I stepped off, I felt something shift. The salty air, the cry of gulls, the distant hum of waves, it all felt like freedom. I found a room above a bakery, tiny, old, with a window that looked out onto rusted rooftops and neon signs. But it was mine. The landlord didn't ask questions, just took my cash and handed me the key. I dropped my bag on the floor and stood there in the silence, realizing I had done it. I was gone. That day, I walked the streets until my legs ached. I needed work, fast. My savings wouldn't last long. I stumbled into a seaside cafe, asked if they were hiring. The manager, a wiry woman with a bandana and too many rings, shrugged. "If you can handle the morning rush, the job's yours." And I did. I poured coffee, took orders, cleaned tables. No one asked about my family or why I looked like I hadn't slept in weeks. It was chaotic, but it was mine. By the end of the week, I'd fallen into a rhythm. Wake, work, walk. I started bringing a notebook with me, jotting down memories, ideas, anything that spilled out. Something in me was waking up. Then came the call. It was past midnight. I was lying on my mattress, listening to the buzz of the street light outside, when my phone lit up. Sophie. I stared at the screen for a long second. I answered. Ava. Her voice was small, shaky. Where are you? Mom and Dad are freaking out. I sat up. Why? They're trying to plan the trip without you, and everything's falling apart. No one wants to watch the kids. Mason's wife is threatening not to go. Everyone's fighting. I let out a breath. They'll figure it out. You left a note, she whispered. Just 2 words. I paused. That's all they needed to know. There was silence. Then, I miss you. That broke me a little, but I held firm. I had to go, Sophie. For once, I had to choose myself. I get it, she said softly. I thought maybe I'd come with you. That I didn't expect. What? I'm tired too, of being the quiet one, of fixing things no one sees. Maybe I just want to be Ava's niece, not the family's therapist. I closed my eyes, overwhelmed. We'll talk, I said, heart pounding. Soon. Promise? I smiled. Promise. We hung up, and I stared at the ceiling. The weight of the past still there, but a little lighter. Maybe I hadn't left everything behind after all. The dock was quiet in the early morning haze, waves brushing the wood like a lullaby. I sat on a bench with a takeout coffee in one hand and a notebook in the other. The sky was turning a soft pink, and for once, my thoughts weren't loud. Back home, mornings meant chaos. Packing lunches, answering texts, juggling everyone's emergencies while ignoring my own needs. But here, no one needed me, and I didn't feel guilty for it. I had expected loneliness to hit hard, but what I found instead was space. Space to breathe, to think, to just be. I watched as a man with salt and pepper hair cast a fishing net into the bay. His movements were slow, practiced, steady. There was something peaceful about it, about doing something without anyone watching, without needing applause. That was new to me, so I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo, then another. I hadn't taken pictures since college. I used to love capturing moments, quiet, raw, real. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that I was allowed to create something for me. Later that afternoon, I showed the photos to Marla, the cafe manager with the bandana and rings. She raised an eyebrow and muttered, "Not bad, kid. There's something there." It was the first time in years anyone said I was good at something that didn't involve cleaning up someone else's mess. Something shifted. That night, I stopped by a tiny bookstore near the boardwalk, bought a secondhand camera that had seen better days but still worked. The owner smiled when I said I was starting over. "You've got that look," he said, like someone who's finally tired of being invisible. That stuck with me. I wasn't invisible anymore. And I wasn't trying to be everything for everyone. For once, I was trying to be something for me. The flyer was taped to the cafe's bulletin board, half covered by a lost dog notice and a yoga class ad. Beginner photography workshop, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Local artists welcome. Marla pointed it out on my lunch break. "You should go," she said, handing me my sandwich. "You've got an eye, Ava." I laughed it off, unsure. I hadn't thought of myself as an artist since I was 20. But later that night, I stood outside the workshop's door, heart pounding, palms sweaty, camera slung over my shoulder. Inside, a dozen people circled around a tall guy with wild hair and a gravelly voice. "Photography isn't about perfection," he was saying. "It's about telling the truth no one sees." That stopped me cold. I slid into the back, quiet, unnoticed. But then he spotted me and nodded. "Come in, we're just getting started." I showed my shots at the end of the session. Dock workers, rusted ships, the quiet curve of morning waves. The instructor, Paul, leaned in. "You've got something. There's depth here." The others nodded. Some even asked about my technique. My technique? I didn't think I had one, but I left that night walking taller. The next week, Paul pulled me aside. A friend of mine is hosting a gallery night. Small, local stuff. You should submit a few pieces. My throat tightened. You think I'm ready? He smiled. You're more ready than you think. I spent the weekend choosing prints. Waves at dawn. A boy laughing on the pier. My first self-portrait in years is raw, honest, imperfect. I titled the collection Unseen. On the night of the gallery, I stood by my corner of the room, nervously adjusting the frames. I wasn't expecting much. Then someone bought one, $50, for my photo. My hands trembled as I held the cash. It wasn't about the money. It was proof. I mattered, not as a helper, not as a fixer, as Ava. It had been nearly 2 months since I left, and for the first time in my life, I had a rhythm that wasn't based on someone else's needs. Mornings at the cafe, evenings with my camera, nights writing in my notebook with music from the bakery below, drifting through the floorboards. It was messy, loud, unpredictable, exactly the life I'd always wanted. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I looked up from behind the counter and nearly dropped the coffee pot. He was standing there, Dad, same worn-out coat, same heavy scowl, same eyes that used to glance right past me. Ava, he muttered, we need to talk. I wiped my hands slowly, motioned toward the back room. He followed. I came all this way, he said, voice lower now. Your mom's a wreck. Mason's wife refuses to speak to any of us. Charlotte says we should have never let you leave. I folded my arms. You didn't let me leave. I walked away. He hesitated. Look, the trip fell apart. We didn't go. None of it worked without you. I stayed silent. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd swallowed something sharp. We were wrong. I was wrong. Those words stunned me more than I'd expected. He sat, hands curled on the edge of the table. We need you. No, I said gently. You don't. You need someone to pick up the pieces. I'm not that person anymore. His jaw tightened. So what now? You just leave us behind? I nodded. Not behind, just not beneath you anymore. We sat in silence. He looked around the small cafe like it was a foreign land. Then his eyes landed on the camera, slung over my shoulder. You're really doing this? I am. He stood slowly, nodded once. Take care of yourself. I already am, I said. And this time I meant it. The gallery buzzed with soft chatter and clinking glasses. It wasn't a big event, just a converted warehouse lit with fairy lights and folding chairs. But to me, it felt like the center of the universe, my second exhibit. This time, my name was printed on the flyer. Ava Morgan. Unseen stillness. Photos lined the wall. Sunrise over the docks. A fisherman's weathered hands. The silhouette of a mother holding her child on a foggy morning. Each image was a piece of the quiet strength I had found within myself. People stopped, looked, and lingered, not because they knew me, but because they saw something in the work. That was new. That was powerful. I spotted Sophie near the back, sipping soda, cheeks flushed from pride. She'd taken a bus to visit for the weekend, and I could tell she understood. She'd been watching me build something from nothing. No lectures. No guilt, just presence. I walked over, hugged her tightly. You did it, she whispered. We did, I said. Marla waved from the refreshment table, mouth full of crackers, giving me a thumbs up. Paul, the photography instructor, nodded from across the room, his usual calm smile in place. I wasn't alone anymore, not in the way that used to haunt me, but alone in a way that meant independent. I stepped outside for a breath of air. The night was cool, the ocean not far. I could hear waves in the distance. Steady, familiar. My phone buzzed. A photo from home. My family at some backyard gathering. No message, just the picture. I looked at it for a while, then I smiled. They were living their lives, and I was finally living mine. I slid the phone back into my pocket, turned toward the light of the gallery, and walked back in. This time I wasn't standing in the background. I was the story. Sometimes walking away isn't about giving up. It's about reclaiming yourself. Ava spent years being the glue that held her family together. She gave up dreams, opportunities, and her identity for the sake of others who barely noticed. It wasn't until she was pushed to the edge, told she didn't even belong, that she finally let go. And in letting go, she found herself. Her journey wasn't dramatic or filled with applause. It was quiet, messy, brave. She didn't leave to punish anyone. She left to heal. The most powerful transformation happens when you stop begging for a seat at someone else's table and build your own instead. If you're someone who's always showing up for others, but never for yourself, Ava's story is a wake-up call. We often confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. Being there for family is noble, but not when it costs your peace, your voice, or your dreams. Your worth isn't measured by how much you carry for everyone else. Take one small step today. Write, paint, travel, rest, apply for the job. Say no for once. You don't need permission to choose you. Like Ava, you might be surprised by how life begins the moment you stop trying to fit into a place you've outgrown. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.